Hello, I'm Hilary Robertson. Welcome to the latest episode of Harmonious World. Thank you for joining me. If it's your first time listening to Harmonious World, please do check out some of the past episodes. This episode I am joined by sax player Viktor Haraszti. Viktor's latest album, Equanimity, is subtitled A Futuristic Jazz Tale. It's a fascinating album and you're currently listening to Intro from it. And I hope you enjoy listening to our conversation. Hi, Viktor.
Hello, Hilary. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very humbled to be here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for sending me a copy of the album. I love it. It's all your own compositions?
Yes, all originals.
Yeah, and you play lots of instruments, don't you? So let's start with the composition process. How did that start?
Yeah, how about that? That was not a usual way. Let's say I'm not so much into the metaphysical things, but this was very mystic. The whole process. I literally had some kind of vision, if I can say that. I think I was shaving at home. What a place to discover new music, isn't it? So and. I imagine the situation. It's just pump out in my mind that the kind of situation where somebody is completely losing certainty in the environment. In some ways, everything is just disappear one moment to another, and you are there alone in this chaotic world, and you have to figuring out how you're going to continue your life, how you're going to take the next step. What going to keep you a kind of sane into the kind of position where you everything is together, everything makes sense to you, and so I stuck it stuck it in my mind, and some way I thought that it would be great to start some kind of visual, because I just imagine that this is going to be something, a journey, some kind of journey. And I asked my friend, he's a great photographer, Balázs Szűcs, and I told him, man, I would like to take some pictures. Let's find a place. And then I told him what I was feeling, and we started to looking for places. Where should I go? What kind of environment could represent what I'm feeling? And so we discovered this small city in Belgium, Doulen. That's the name of the city, and it's a kind of city that completely gets a kind of lost urban city. And the story behind is that the people who live there, they started to get a little bit frustrated and scared about the environment. There is an atomic reactor in the city, a huge bay, and it's a kind of futuristic environment. Lots of containers, bay, ships, and so I told Balázs, let's go there, let's visit this place, and we jump into the car and we drive it, and we was like shocking with the images we find there, and it was like mind blowing, and the whole atmosphere, the city, that kind of mysterious city, completely lost, and so we stayed there for a day and started taking pictures, and yeah, I went to crawl in the mud and everything, so it was really a fun thing to do. In some way, it discovered like I don't know, like an actor who starts to make a research, or a writer who makes a research, starts with the journey to the place, discovering things about the elements, and I collected all this, and it became a kind of inspiration for me to start this project. And it was in 2019. So I didn't even was my head was not absolutely not thinking in any kind of world epidemic or pandemic or whatever around me. It was a very peaceful, and I had no reason to think in a manner like that. So I later started with the cover of the album.
Which is stunning. It is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Can't see your face, but that's okay.
Yeah, the interesting part is that when we took the pictures, it's of course all of them with the face. And I went home and I had a kind of problem with that. I don't know why. Not because I feel bad about my face or anything else, but some way I wanted to make it something that more universal, not personally just me, but more everybody. It could be anybody. It could be anybody, and it could that in some way I wanted that anybody could relate to this music. And however, it's my personal journey, of course. I try to write it in a way that it speaks to the listener as a universal thing. And I just cut it myself out, and I find that picture which I am standing there in a smoke and in this kind of place very fascinating. And yeah. I thought this is reflecting the music greatly.
And so how much of the music is then composed, written down, and how much of it is improvised?
Yeah, it's a little bit 50-50. I try to find the balance. I love to improvise, and I love to discovering things on the flow. So I try to create a setup for myself during the production, layering sounds, layering synthesizers, layering all kind of keyboard sounds. And I just went behind and then started improvising. And actually, the first part of the music was improvised entirely. And just later on, I thought, okay, let's make the balance. I don't want to make a free jazz album. I would like to make something because of that kind of story I imagined. It starts with this chaotic, and it has to go somewhere. And I thought that it will give some kind of stability for people to go for something when they listening the music. Actually, the whole concept was I tried to write something which is going in one flow. I had no intention to make tracks with titles.
Right. It does feel like there's a flow throughout the whole album, and almost it rarely happens. You can't dip in and out. You have to listen to the whole thing.
Exactly. And actually the original concept was a little bit just write one tune, like a half-hour tune, without the kind of thing that is a track. Just start to listen it and go until the end. And later on the production, of course, I realized that this is not going to work because people the CD needs to skip, radios needs to play some parts, and so it's not going to work like one track. But I had to dissect it. I mean, I had to separate the chapters, and then came the idea: let's make chapters.
Right, that's exactly right. And it's like a suite, isn't it? So they're all interlinked, but they sit separately on the CD.
Yes.
Okay. And so when did you record it?
I did during 2020, and I think I started composing in the winter period in 2019, and then it's developed. And during 2020, I was working more intensively, like really jamming with myself, playing all these things. So it was quite a long process, I must say. It's not something. It's also not usual. I think most composer, or I mean, most jazz musicians like to do one album in a couple months. Let's go, let's get it.
Yeah.
But for me, it was really something I needed time. I don't know why, but because also what happened around me, it's just started to taking influence. I get influences from the situation, what's happened, and I just discovered that everything I imagine some way is start to happening around me. So that delayed the process as well, because I was curious where this goes.
Who else appeared on the album?
Yeah, I'm very honored to have a renowned drummer from the famous band Bad Plus, Dave King, who I contacted during the lockdowns, and he was very, very kind and inspired, because I sent him some music, and he said, "Wow, great! I like this idea," and yeah, so he offered his service, and I was very humbled, and I was very happy that he liked to do that. And yeah, I think it's a fabulous track. He's playing. It's just, yeah, it's really extraordinary. And also I have a dear friend of mine, Marshall Kirtley, who is a very innovative drummer. He discovered a new technique, playing with his fingers and using a pad and the kind of finger drumming skills. Yeah, it's something very unusual. So I asked him to like to play on my album, and he said yes, and we improvised together, and it was great. It's something very, very unusual that somebody can play with his fingers instead of the sticks.
Yeah.
And also a very lovely lady from Italy, an American lady, Lisa Marie Simmons, who she's a songwriter, lyricist, and I met her a couple of years back, and we kept the connections, and I thought that she has a very great voice, and I liked the way how she writes, so I sent her the same intention. Take a look. What do you think about it? And she accepted, and she was very delighted, and she wrote 2 beautiful lyrics. I think it's also a great contribution on the album.
Yeah, and they're all, and it's nice how those contributions add little bits in here and there, and it's not like you've got a group going all the way through that, so there's light and shade and differences. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all balanced. I really love that it gives a balance. I like the kind of lyrical aspects in this.
Yeah. Okay. Can you tell me a bit about your background? Because you were born in Hungary but live in the Netherlands. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. That's the continuation.
Okay, but how did that happen? So, how did you move, and why the Netherlands?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a family connection. My mother had a very dear friend. She's a classic piano player. She lived in the Netherlands, and I mean, she met before her. My mother is originally coming from Ukraine. She born there in a Carpathia, and my father was a Hungarian. So they build their life in Hungary, in Budapest, and along the way, my mother had many friends, and one of them was that lady. She's a classic piano player, and she moved. She lived several years in Hungary, and after she moved and started a new life in Holland. But we had a connection, and she was a dear friend. So in some way, I was in the moment of my life, and I wanted to continue proceeding for study saxophone and getting a better player. It was very late actually, because I was already reaching 28, so everything happened very fast. And she advised me, yeah, you can try some schools here in Holland, because there are great schools to learn jazz. And this is the thing. How I started. It was a couple years process until I find my place, and I was admitted first in Zwolle as a smaller conservatorium, and later I continued in Utrecht, and there I graduated there, and I stuck here
right
after graduation.
Yeah. And are you, I mean, how are you a jobbing saxophone player? Are you gig? Do you gig? What's your life like?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It's all the student years, gigging, playing gigs, playing jazz bands, and following all the possibilities you can you can take as a student, and also starting to teaching. Around that time was not so much internet. It just started to everything around 2000, and I graduated in 2005. So, and it was not, that doesn't happen in a way like that. It was more like the gigs was like you find a guy and he calls you, and everybody was just, you had a great network with real persons.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was everything was very physical. So we went to the jam sessions, we jammed, and then, hey, I have a gift for you, or so things are developed at like very personal level.
Okay, so I was going to ask you how your lockdown was, but I guess this was your lockdown project.
It became eventually, yes, exactly. Yeah. It is now. I mean, I started before the lockdown, so it still some way connects. But during the lockdown, it became the influence is
sounds like it took a lot of time in that period. So and what about now? I mean, how have you, is the Netherlands starting to sort of come out of it properly? Because I know I've seen in the news that you went back into lockdown a couple of times.
Yeah, it was some lockdowns was pretty long. I as I remember.
Yeah.
And
we forget, don't we? We forget the kind of, where one stopped and another one started, and yeah.
I mean, it's all blurred out after a while. I started to just focusing on my creative side some way. I think many of the musicians did that during these lockdowns. They started to practice, to compose, and figuring out things. The funny thing is, for all other everyday usual people is like the scariest thing to get that kind of isolation, not having a connection with others. But for an artist, it's like we are always there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
business as usual.
Yeah.
And for me, it was actually okay. I will stay in my room. I will practice. I will do my things. I'm pretty okay with that, and I could focus more on the music.
Very good.
But honestly, I must say that after 1 year, me and my wife, we started to missing social life very much.
Yeah.
And connection to public, to go to concerts, the opportunity to play, to get jam sessions or anything where you can just have that.
Yeah.
That personal thing is important. It's like
absolutely, yeah.
We are not supposed to live in isolation.
No, that's right. Definitely not. What's the future? I mean, how are you going to do are you doing a really big launch of this album, or you having a party? Are you doing a tour? What are you doing?
Yeah, it all sounds great. I didn't plan for this. It was like in some point I know that of course you have to give full gas on a pedal, but in some way I was so relieved when it's finished, and then I touched the album literally in my hands, and I was like, wow, moment. And in that moment I felt that okay, let this bird fly, see where it goes, and I will follow wherever it take me. And I hope that, of course, it would be great to continue and take some live performances for sure.
Yeah,
I'm up to it.
Great. Well, let's hope you can come over to London and do some here.
Lovely.
Well, thank you so much, Viktor. I really appreciate your time.
Yes. Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hilary.
Lovely to talk to you, Viktor.
Yeah, me too. Thank you very much for this invitation. I'm very, very glad to be here. And you are also a saxophone player, so I'm also very honored to.
Absolutely. Great. Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to my conversation with Viktor Haraszti. His album Equanimity is well worth a listen, so please follow the links on the show notes. I do apologise for the gaps between the latest episodes. I've had a very difficult few weeks in my personal life, but I'm back on it now. So I hope you are all well, and I hope you are all sharing a little of what you are good at to make this world a bit more harmonious. We definitely need it right now. Thanks for joining me once more for Harmonious World, and I hope you're enjoying listening to Epilogue from Viktor Harasti's album Equanimity. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.